This is the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
You're inside Jamaica Magazine.
Encouraging the information flow, sharing the news and views you need to know.
We are building an informed Jamaica every day.
Listening to what you say.
Season's greetings. It is Monday, December 14th. Thanks so much for joining us on today's edition of Jamaica Magazine. I am your host, Alison Watson. Coming up, Prime Minister Golding says new taxes are to accompany IMF deal and new ways must be explored to motivate public sector workers. Plus, South Africa's cultural minister extends an invitation for the sharing of entertainment and education traditions. Later on, we'll visit a unique Christmas card shop and some spirited entertainment for the season. Stay with us. The news in detail after this break.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go!
Radio.
We'll have Calcum of Clothes and House Matters in our features package.
And now the news, I'm Kevin Clark. Research and publications. Television.
It's Wednesday, October 28th.
We've got a hot Jamaica Magazine.
Welcome to another edition of
Editorial and photography. Public relations.
It is set to be the driving force of the agency.
All this and more in one place. 4 divisions, 15 departments.
The largest organization of its kind in Jamaica and I dare say in the English-speaking Caribbean.
One strategic objective.
Truth. Well told.
It's the Jamaica Information Service.
The voice of Jamaica.
And now the news. Jamaicans are now bracing for new taxes, pending the country's resumed borrowing relationship with the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. The disclosure was made by Prime Minister Bruce Golding during his one-hour conversation with JIS journalist Ian Boyne. With the details, here's Andrea Chisholm.
Still navigating the waves of the economic recession, the government is left with little choice but to sign a deal with the IMF in a bid to purchase items which require the use of a foreign exchange. That's a word from Prime Minister Bruce Golding. But he is now saying that following the deal, the government will have to increase revenue. This is due to a $17.8 billion decline in revenue, even as budgetary expenditure is $7 billion lower than projected. That leaves a $10 billion gap in the budget, which has to be plugged.
We're going to have to start closing that gap in this fiscal year.
This fiscal year?
So more taxes? More taxes will have to come. We'll have to look to see where our sources of taxes.
But can the poor take any more, Prime Minister? Can the poor take any more taxes?
The key thing in this is that we have to try to spread that burden as much as possible, spread it across.
The Prime Minister did not specify when the IMF deal will be signed. However, he is optimistic that it will be cemented before the end of December. He went on to dismiss the notion that a lack of technical expertise led to the delay in signing the agreement.
What has taken the time is negotiating the fiscal program and the medium-term economic program, because understand, while the IMF is lending you money for your external accounts, the IMF is saying, and quite understandably, that you need to put your house in order, or else you won't be able to repay us the fund. And that has taken a considerable amount of time because of how bad our situation is.
Some elements of this situation are the public sector wage bill and the fiscal deficit.
In the negotiations, the IMF and ourselves have been working to see now, how do we fix that? Over what time frame can that be fixed? And what are the measures that are required? And those measures are not painless.
Yeah.
You're going to have to cut expenditure. You're going to have to increase your revenues. This is the tough, hard decisions that are very much at the center of the IMF negotiations.
Which brings...
For JIS News, I'm Andrea Chisholm.
Employers are being reminded to make the necessary adjustments to their payroll system to reflect the January 1 increase in the income tax threshold. The advisory came this morning from the Tax Administration Services Department. In the new year, the income tax threshold will be raised to $441,168. This translates to a tax-free income of $36,764 monthly, $16,968 fortnightly, and $8,484 weekly. The income tax threshold was previously increased twice this year. On January 1, it was raised to $220,272 before being increased again to $320,736 on July 1. Ways and means have to be found to motivate public sector workers. That message came from Prime Minister Bruce Golding at a recent graduation ceremony at the Management Institute for National Development, MIND.
It's a question of how we use the resources that we have. It's a question of how we narrow the gap between my little place in this little office and this enterprise that we call Jamaica, to which my little place in that little office is supposed to be linked.
The Prime Minister says this disconnect that exists is in part a management failure. But he also acknowledges that the structure and culture of the public sector do not adequately allow or encourage this kind of management and leadership.
In making these observations, I don't want to be misinterpreted, as I sometimes am, because a great deal of effort has been made to address these issues. The executive agency concept, and MIND was one of the very first to have been established, was an effort to address this problem, and it has had a significant degree of success. The fact that there may be some agencies that have not been as successful as others is not an indictment of the concept.
He also re-emphasized the need for special training facilities for public sector workers. The Prime Minister has hailed MIND as one of the institutions meeting that need. Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Kenneth Baugh is stressing the need for urgent global corrective action to deal with climate change. The Deputy Prime Minister is in Copenhagen, Denmark, for the 15th Conference of Parties to the Framework Convention on Climate Change. It runs from December 7 to 18. Dr. Baugh leads a local delegation that left the island on the weekend. He will also address the critical threat posed by the adverse effects of climate change to smaller developing states such as Jamaica. More coffee farmers are being urged to register with the Coffee Industry Board, the CIB. The call comes from the CIB's Director General, Christopher Gentles. He says this is critical to the development of the industry, especially for accountability, project planning and insurance purposes.
And currently the Coffee Industry Board is engaged with the World Bank to engage in a new type of insurance product called parametric insurance. And however, you need a database, a reliable database that has all your farmers, size holdings, and what the potential yields are going to be in order to effect such a program.
The Director General points out that farmer registration also reduces incidents of predial larceny, which continues to be a scourge on the industry.
There were too many people engaged in it, and what we found that the lack of structure in the buying and selling of coffee facilitated the stealing of cherry coffee. And what we hope to do is to put in, with this farmer registration system, is to put more structure in place so that if you're going to sell the coffee, you need to have your card, or your selector needs to know you and can select your name from a list.
Mr. Gentles was speaking recently at a JIS think tank session. Coffee is the second most important crop in Jamaica as far as export earnings are concerned. It also provides employment for over 100,000 persons. Young Jamaican performers may have a chance to visit South Africa